Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have a crushing game to share with you that was played in New York, 1957. On the white end, Bobby Fischer, playing against international master Rodolfo Cardoso. He'd go on to become Philippine Champion in 1958 and 1963. All right, on board we have a 14-year-old Fischer going for a King's Indian attack formation. These first 6 moves by white, universal setup, pretty much do it against whatever black throws your way. The setup for black, also popular, very easy to find yourself in this exact situation in one of your own games. Now, the one piece I haven't highlighted for black that has moved, this dark square bishop, not the most common placement on d6. It's really better positioned on e7. We'll see reasons for this soon enough. Let me go ahead and throw this one to you as a pop quiz. How would you continue here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, Fischer plays in the best way. It's e4. There's only 2 supporters for it and 3 attackers, but it is there tactically. White doesn't have to waste a tempo supporting it with a major piece. It's e4 straight away. Now, let me point out that e4 is available even if this bishop is on e7. Why? Well, this capture could be met with knight to e5, making use of the e5 square, pinning the e4 pawn, hitting the e4 pawn for a 3rd time. If black captures on d3, they would follow bishop takes b7. Okay, in this game after e4, black's play is bishop to g4. Now, 7 moves in, something is off with black's play, this last move in particular. It is the best move in this case, but in general, there's an inconsistency already with black's play. Why do I say this? Well, black's last move, h6, was played for what reason? It's to preserve the bishop, to meet moves like knight h4 with bishop h7. A pocket has been opened up for the bishop on h7. So when e4 is played in this game and the bishop is all of a sudden shifting gears, going somewhere else, making use of g4, yeah, it's a bit of an inconsistency. 7 moves in by black. Now, g4 in this case is purposeful. There's a big reason to play g4 here. If black falls back in response to e4, well, there we go. There's a problem. e5 lands a fork. White wins material soon enough. The idea behind bishop g4 is to make this knight powerless, throw it in a pin. e5 is now not good. Bishop takes pawn would be there. Okay. There's variations to touch on here. Rather than bishop g4, why can black not just chop away? On e4, let's have a look at these moves. Testing first, knight takes, and then bishop takes. What's happening after knight takes? White can simply take, and then target 2 unprotected points. Queen d4 is winning for white. Bishop, pawn are hit. No good move here for black. Bishop takes knight could be met with first queen takes g7. We're on the rook. Bishop takes bishop straight away is also very good. Both knight pawns are still, there's still 2 targets in this position for black to address, and you can't meet both of these threats. The other sequence, let's say taking with the bishop, well, this isn't going to work out either for black because in the end, not queen d4 here. The knight could fall back, save itself, and block the threat on g7. In this position, there'd be knight d4, unmasking this now unopposed light square bishop, and there's a problem on e4 and b7. And what are you doing about that? Here, defending the knight is going to get crushed. Pick your favorite way. And if the knight goes here, this is all very loose, not a stable piece. Trying to defend here, we deflect defenders. The queen side is going to collapse shortly for black. So you can't just chop away on e4 in short in this case. We follow with bishop g4, and now h3. Black has to give up the light square bishop. That's what follows here. Bishop takes knight. If you try and maintain the pin, it will be broken with g4. And after the bishop moves, there we go. The very fork black was trying to prevent would now be there. So this is necessary. Bishop takes knight. Knight takes as a follow-up. Great square for a knight. Bishop is also now ready to play. And we continue now with knight b to d7. This guy is still poison. This position should look very familiar. The only thing that has changed here is that the h-pawn has taken a step. The same move would follow. Knight d4. Problem, problem. Okay. In this game, it's knight b to d7. White has time to now support e4 directly and renews the threat of e5 with a fork. Black's response is pawn takes pawn. If you try to prevent e5 by playing e5 right now, white can take on d5 and then capture on e5, and there's a problem here. This is a winning position for white. In this game, it's pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and the follow-up is bishop c5. What's best here for black is e5. We're going to see Fischer's allowed in this game to establish a pawn on e5, and there's really very little hope for black because of this white pawn on e5. So this is pretty much a requirement for black at this point, but it was not played. Bishop c5 instead, at least getting out of the fork. e5 still hits. Knight d5, c4, minor pieces getting kicked around. Bishop d2, knight f5, another pop quiz here. How would you continue? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, be aware that there is a tactic lingering in the position. There's a pin here on the f2 pawn. So your eye may be focused on this square here. It is an intersection square. You may be looking to cover it. Well, you'd fall for this one. Knight takes pawn. And you're going to lose the exchange shortly. So Fischer sniffs that one out. Simple enough. Let's get out of the pin. Follow up now, c6. Tough to recommend improvements here for black. One of the moves suggesting here a5, stopping a b4 advance. The purpose behind c6 here, try and tame this unopposed bishop. Fischer continues now with b4, and the bishop goes back to e7 here. If black tries something maybe a little bit clever at this stage, not reacting to the threat, let's say instead going to d4, saying, hey, if you take me, I take here and hit the rook and pawn. A simple reaction for white instead of capturing on d4 would be queen e4, saying, I'm threatening you here, and here you have to take my knight, and eventually you're going to have to go backwards. So you don't have to allow, in short, a bishop on d4. You can simply play queen e4. Okay, in this game, it's bishop e7 straight away. Follow up, bishop c3. So we're 17 moves in. Something that stuck out to me about this game, there were several white pawn advances that kicked black's minor pieces. The very first kick was e4, hitting the bishop. Then it was h3, hitting the bishop. e5, hitting a knight. c4, hitting a knight. And then b4, hitting a bishop. White has gained a lot of time with these pawn advances, but notice he is not overextended. The position is still very compact. He has a lead in development. He's going to work now. He's going to look to work now with this e5 pawn. This next move by Fischer after g5 is very instructive. Now, this last move in g5, what is its point? The only thing I could maybe add here is that Black is maybe looking forward to this idea, h5, g4, trying to get at the king that's now opposite this h8 rook. What does the computer want to play rather than g5? It's saying play a5. White would be able to take here. The point is that Black has a square to work with. The knight, the bishop have access to c5 at least. This is still a winning position for White. Okay, in this game it is g5. The follow-up here, throw it to you as a pop quiz. How would you continue? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, there's one open file. You might be thinking, well, which rook is more appropriate on the d file? You could play rook a to d1, that's fine. It's one of the top moves. But I really like Fischer's idea. He simply maneuvers the knight. He puts the knight on d2. Where is it headed? For the weakest square in the position, in Black's position for sure, d6. Although, there's really, I guess we could say two really big weaknesses, d6 and f6. They're both holes. And this knight is ready to go right here and eye up both of them. I guess if I had to pick which of these two is weakest, it would be the d6 square because there's more white pieces that have access to it. Given this completely opened d file, the major pieces can control d6 directly. But either way, a knight on e4 really feels like, you know, this construction, knight on e4, pawn on e5, it's like, gotta be worth at least a rook. This configuration, it's downhill for Black from this point. What's tried is queen c7. No problem, the knight can still pivot on e4 without fear of this capture on e5. Black continues now with rook g8. If knight takes pawn here, there's going to be a problem after knight c5. What are you doing about this guy? Try and support it with the pawn. e6 is a goner. Queen h5 is a move. If you try defending with the bishop one way or the other, let's pick this one. We could invite another piece into the attack. There's still a problem here. A knight check on this square is no big deal. We can always take and defend the bishop. If knight g4, with the idea to win here, well, this is not working out. Two minor pieces outweigh the rook, and there's going to be an accident happening on e6 very shortly. Any other continuation at this point right here, if let's say the knight goes back, we would have knight takes e6, which is crushing. These are not only moves. These are just one example, one way you could go ahead and crush Black. Completely winning here. This guy, in short, poison. The rook goes to g8 in this case. The idea, get out of the way of knight d6, and after a capture, recapture, the bishop won't target the rook. Follow up now, c5. This knight will arrive here, and it's going to be crushing. There's going to be, at minimum for White, a connected passed pawn on d6. Or Black's going to have to work around a piece on d6. Can't tell you which one is better for Black. Both are crushing ideas here. All right, we continue now with king to f8. If Black tries in this position to take on e5, still no good. This is a simpler continuation. knight d6 in this case, with check. If knight takes knight, there would follow bishop takes knight, pinning, and then winning the black knight. And if bishop takes, we would take here, we're on the queen, and after a capture on d6, we swipe the knight. We're up a piece in the end. So, poison yet again. King goes to f8, at least sidestepping knight d6, the move played in the game, no longer hitting with check. And black now tries to undermine c5, but this is way gone at this stage. If black tried something else instead of b6, let's say knight takes knight, well, that's not working. Going to have a fork there. If, let's say, bishop takes knight, there's no direct knockout in this position, but, a simple follow-up in this situation where you have an enormous connected passed pawn is to activate all your pieces, putting the rooks on open files, looking forward to b5 to break down this position. Great position for white, winning position. No rush in a position like this for white. Black has no counterplay here. You can take all the time in the world. Nice, cozy king position here. And this guy is not having so much fun. Very airy position for the black king. Okay, in this game, we do not have the capture on d6. Instead, b6. But now comes knight takes knight. Pawn takes knight. Unopposed bishop. What would we like to do? Break down black pawns on light squares. In comes e6. Super disruptive. If you dare take on e6, wow. What is this queen? What would this queen not be hitting in black's position? Absolutely crushing. This queen is, without question, being a queen. Okay, we do not have the capture on e6. Instead, it's bishop f6. Follow up rook a to d1. Bishop takes bishop. We're taking the knight. What's tried? Knight e5. Activating now the last piece. How do you defend here? This is the trick black goes for. Knight g4. We simply take the knight. Bishop takes bishop and get to the 7th rank with tempo. Queen c8. Rook takes pawn check. King e8. Rook to the open file. Rook g7. Chop, chop. Another chop. We have two connected passed pawns. Watch out. Queen check. Rook d7. Completely gone. Black tries king f8, but after just one more move, e7 check, black throws in the towel. In response to any of these moves, the only moves available for black, they can all be met with rook d8, either winning the queen or following up, getting another queen, completely winning here for white. So, what did you think of this one? Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.